7-Day Terror by R.A. Lafferty. Things just vanished. It was simple. As a matter of fact, it was child's play. "Is there anything you want to make disappear?" Clarence Willoughby asked his mother. "A sink full of dishes is all I can think of. How will you do it?" "I just built a disappear. All you do is cut the other end out of a beer can. Then you take 2 pieces of red cardboard with peepholes in the middle and fit them in the ends. You look through the peepholes and blink. Whatever you look at will disappear." "Oh. But I don't know if I can make them come back. We'd better try it on something else. Dishes cost money." As always, Myra Willoughby had to admire the wisdom of her 9-year-old son. She would not have had such foresight herself. He always did. "You can try it on Blanche Manners' cat outside there. Nobody will care if it disappears except Blanche Manners." "All right." He put the disappear to his eye and blinked. The cat disappeared from the sidewalk outside. His mother was interested. "I wonder how it works." "Do you know how it works?" "Yes. You take a beer can with both ends cut out and put in 2 pieces of cardboard. Then you blink. Never mind. Take it outside and play with it. You hadn't better make anything disappear in here till I think about this." But when he had gone, his mother was oddly disturbed. "I wonder if I have a precocious child. Why, there's lots of grown people who wouldn't know how to make a disappear that would work. I wonder if Blanche Manners will miss her cat very much." Clarence went down to the Plugged Nickel, a pot-house on the corner. "Do you have anything you want to make disappear, Nokomis?" "Only my paunch. If I make it disappear, it'll leave a hole in you, and you'll bleed to death." "That's right, I would. Why don't you try it on the fire plug outside?" This, in a way, was one of the happiest afternoons ever in the neighborhood. The children came from blocks around to play in the flooded streets and gutters, and if some of them drowned, and we don't say that they did drown in the flood, and brother, it was a flood. Why, you have to expect things like that. The fire engines, who ever heard of calling fire engines to put out a flood, were apparatus deep in the water. The policemen and ambulance men wandered around wet and bewildered. "Resuscitator, resuscitator, anybody want a resuscitator?" chanted Clarissa Willoughby. "Oh, shut up," said the ambulance attendants. Nokomis, the barman in the Plugged Nickel, called Clarence aside. "I don't believe, just for the moment, I'd tell anybody what happened to that fire plug," he said. "I won't tell if you won't tell," said Clarence. Officer Comstock was suspicious. "There's only 7 possible explanations. One of the 7 Willoughby kids did it. I don't know how. I'd take a bulldozer to do it, and then there'd be something left of the plug. But however they did it, one of them did it." Officer Comstock had a talent for getting near the truth of dark matters. This is why he was walking a beat out here in the boondocks instead of sitting in a chair downtown. "Clarissa," said Officer Comstock in a voice like thunder. "Resuscitator, resuscitator, anybody want a resuscitator?" chanted Clarissa. "Do you know what happened to that fire plug?" asked Officer C. "I have an uncanny suspicion. As yet it is no more than that. When I am better informed, I will advise you." Clarissa was 8 years old, and much given to uncanny suspicions. "Clementine, Harold, Corinne, Jimmy, Cyril," he asked the 5 younger Willoughby children, "do you know what happened to that fire plug?" "There was a man around yesterday. I bet he took it," said Clementine. "I don't even remember a fire plug there. I think you're making a lot of fuss about nothing," said Harold. "City Hall's going to hear about this," said Corinne. "Pretty domned sure," said Jimmy, "but I won't tell." "Cyril!" cried Officer Comstock in a terrible voice. Not a terrifying voice, a terrible voice. He felt terrible now. "Great green banana," said Cyril. "I'm only 3 years old. I don't see how it's even my responsibility." "Clarence," said Officer Comstock. Clarence gulped. "Do you know where that fire plug went?" Clarence brightened. "No, sir. I don't know where it went." A bunch of smart Alecks from the water department came out and shut off the water for a few blocks around and put some kind of cap on in place of the fire plug. "This sure is going to be a funny-sounding report," said one of them. Officer Comstock walked away discouraged. "Don't bother me, Miss Manners," he said. "I don't know where to look for your cat. I don't even know where to look for a fire plug." "I have an idea," said Clarissa, "that when you find the cat you will find the fire plug the same place. As yet it is only an idea." Ozzie Murphy wore a little hat on top of his head. Clarence pointed his weapon and winked. The hat was no longer there, but a little trickle of blood was running down the pate. "I don't believe I'd play with that any more," said Nokomis. "Who's playing?" said Clarence. "This is for real." This was the beginning of the 7-Day Terror in the heretofore obscure neighborhood. Trees disappeared from the parkings, lamp posts were as though they had never been, Wally Waldorf drove home, got out, slammed the door of his car, and there was no car. As George Mullendorf came up the walk to his house, his dog Pete ran to meet him and took a flying leap into his arms. The dog left the sidewalk, but something happened. The dog was gone, and only a bark lingered for a moment in the puzzled air. But the worst were the fire plugs. The second plug was installed the morning after the disappearance of the first. In 8 minutes it was gone and the flood waters returned. Another one was in by 12 o'clock. Within 3 minutes it had vanished. The next morning fire plug number 4 was installed. The water commissioner was there, the city engineer was there, the chief of police was there with a riot squad, the president of the Parent Teachers Association was there, the president of the university was there, the mayor was there, 3 gentlemen of the FBI, a newsreel photographer, eminent scientists, and a crowd of honest citizens. "Let's see it disappear now," said the city engineer. "Let's see it disappear now," said the police chief. "Let's see it It did, didn't it?" said one of the eminent scientists. "And it was gone, and everybody was very wet." "At least I have the picture sequence of the year," said the photographer, but his camera and apparatus disappeared from the midst of them. "Shut off the water and cap it," said the commissioner, "and don't put in another plug yet. That was the last plug in the warehouse." "This is too big for me," said the mayor. "I wonder that Tass doesn't have it yet." "Tass has it," said a little round man. "I am Tass." "If all of you gentlemen will come into the plug nickel," said Nokomis, "and try one of our new fire hydrant highballs, you will all be happier. These are made of good corn whiskey, brown sugar, and hydrant water from this very gutter. You can be the first to drink them." Business was phenomenal at the plug nickel, for it was in front of its very doors that the fire plugs disappeared in floods of gushing water. "I know a way we can get rich," said Clarissa several days later to her father, Tom Willoughby. "Everybody says they're going to sell their houses for nothing and move out of the neighborhood. Go get a lot of money and buy them all. Then you can sell them again and get rich. I wouldn't buy them for $1 each. 3 of them have disappeared already, and all of the families but us have their furniture moved out in the front yards. There might be nothing but vacant lots in the morning. Good, then buy the vacant lots. And you can be ready when the houses come back." "Come back? Are the houses going to come back? Do you know anything about this, young lady?" "I have a suspicion verging on a certainty. As of now, I can say no more." 3 eminent scientists were gathered in an untidy suite that looked as though it belonged to a drunken sultan. "This transcends the metaphysical. It impinges on the quantum continuum. It obsoletes Boff," said Dr. Velikov-Vonk. "The contingence on the intransigence is the most mystifying aspect," said Arpad Arkabaranan. "Yes," said Willie McGilly. "Who would have thought that you could do it with a beer can and 2 pieces of cardboard? When I was a boy, I used an oatmeal box and a red Crayola." "I do not always follow you," said Dr. Vonk. "I wish you would speak plainer." So far no human had been injured or disappeared, except for a little blood on the pate of Ozzie Murphy, on the lobes of Conchita when her gaudy earrings disappeared from her very ears, a clipped finger or so when a house vanished as the front door knob was touched, a lost toe when a neighborhood boy kicked at a can and the can was not. Probably not more than a pint of blood and 3 or 4 ounces of flesh altogether. Now, however, Mr. Buckle, the grocery store man, disappeared before witnesses. This was serious. Some mean-looking investigators from downtown came out to the Willoughbys. The meanest-looking one was the mayor. In happier days he had not been a mean man, but the terror had now reigned for 7 days. "There have been ugly rumors," said one of the mean investigators, "that link certain events to this household. Do any of you know anything about them?" "I started most of them," said Clarissa, "but I didn't consider them ugly. Cryptic, rather. But if you want to get to the bottom of this, just ask me a question." "Did you make those things disappear?" asked the investigator. "That isn't the question," said Clarissa. "Do you know where they have gone?" asked the investigator. "That isn't the question either." "Can you make them come back?" "Why, of course I can. Anybody can." "Can't you?" "I cannot. If you can, please do so at once. I need some stuff. Get me a gold watch and a hammer. Then go down to the drugstore and get me this list of chemicals. And I need a yard of black velvet and a pound of rock candy." "Shall we?" asked one of the investigators. "Yes," said the mayor. "It's our only hope. Get her anything she wants." And it was all assembled. "Why does she get all the attention?" asked Clarence. "I was the one that made all the things disappear. How does she know how to get them back?" "I knew it!" cried Callisto with hate. "I knew he was the one that did it. He read in my diary how to make it disappear. If I was his mother, I'd whip him for reading his little sister's diary. That's what happens when things like that fall into irresponsible hands." She poised the hammer over the gold watch of the mayor on the floor. I have to wait a few seconds. This can't be hurried. It'll be only a little while." The second hand swept around to the point that was preordained for it before the world began. Clarissa suddenly brought down the hammer with all her force on the beautiful gold watch. "That's all," she said. "Your troubles are over. See, there's Blanche Manor's cat on the sidewalk, just where she was 7 days ago. The cat was back. And now let's go down to the plugged nickel and watch the fire plug come back." They had only a few minutes to wait. It came from nowhere and clanged into the street like a sign and a witness. "Now I predict," said Clarissa, "that every single object will return exactly 7 days from the time of its disappearance." The 7-day terror had ended. The objects began to reappear. "How?" asked the mayor. "Did you know that they would come back in 7 days?" "Because it was a 7-day disappearer that Clarence made. I also know how to make a 9-day, a 13-day, a 27-day, and an 11-year disappearer. I was going to make a 13-day one, but for that you have to color the ends with the blood from a little boy's heart, and Cyril cried every time I tried to make a good cut." "You really know how to make all of these?" "Yes, but I shudder if the knowledge should ever come into unauthorized hands." "I shudder too, Clarissa. But tell me, why did you want the chemicals?" "For my chemistry set. And the black velvet? For doll dresses. And the pound of rock candy?" "How did you ever get to be the mayor of this town if you have to ask questions like that? What do you think I wanted the rock candy for?" "One last question," said the mayor. "Why did you smash my gold watch with the hammer?" "Oh," said Clarissa, "that was for dramatic effect." End of The 7-Day Terror by R.A. Lafferty. Read by Cameron Blakely.